You know that feeling, right? When you're just stopped in your tracks by something huge.
Hmm.
Maybe standing at the ocean, watching a storm, or even just looking up at a really, really starry sky.
Yeah, that sense of scale. It just hits you.
Or sometimes it's not even physical.
Mm.
It could be like finally understanding a really complex idea,
Hmm.
you know?
Uh-huh. Or getting lost in a piece of music.
Exactly. That feeling. You feel sort of small, maybe, but also connected to something.
Hmm.
Well, bigger, much bigger.
It definitely pulls you out of the everyday, quiets the mental noise for a bit,
Right.
expands things.
Exactly. And that feeling, that sometimes slightly overwhelming, incredible feeling,
Hmm.
that's what we're diving into today.
We're digging into the science behind it, the emotion of awe.
Yeah, we've been looking at this really interesting document all about the science of awe.
It pulls together a lot of the research on this really powerful but sometimes kind of elusive human experience.
Yeah, so our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack what awe is, scientifically speaking.
And maybe look at why we even have this emotion, why it might be hardwired into us.
Crucially, we want to explore how intentionally seeking out awe, bringing more of it into your life,
Hmm.
can actually have some pretty profound benefits.
Yeah, for your mind, your body, even how you connect with other people.
And we'll be keeping an eye on how this all links back to understanding ourselves better, relating to the world. Essentially, how awe connects to emotional intelligence.
Right. So by the end, you should have a clearer picture of awe and maybe some practical ideas for finding more of it yourself.
Okay, so let's start right there, defining it. Awe feels so big.
Yeah.
How do scientists actually pin it down?
That's a good question. The research we looked at kind of boils it down to two main things. The first one is perceiving vastness.
Vastness. Okay, easy enough. Like looking to Grand Canyon, that's definitely vast.
For sure, physical vastness is a big trigger. Huge mountains, oceans, redwood forests.
Uh-huh.
But it's not just physical size, it can also be conceptual vastness, meaning something that just blows your current understanding out of the water, like grappling with, say, the theory of relativity, or the age of the universe, or even just the complexity of the human brain.
So anything that makes your usual way of thinking feel too small.
Exactly. It exceeds your normal frame of reference.
Okay, like you need a bigger mental box to put it in.
Precisely. And that leads right into the second key characteristic, a need for accommodation.
Accommodation, right.
Because this vast thing you've encountered, physical or conceptual, it doesn't just slot neatly into how you already see the world. Your existing mental map isn't quite big enough for it.
So your brain has to scramble a bit, like rearrange the furniture to make room.
That's a great way to put it. It requires you to adjust your mental frameworks. This cognitive accommodation, this realignment, it's fundamental to the experience.
So you can't just file it away. You have to actually change the filing system somehow.
You got it. That mental effort, that stretching to understand or integrate this vastness, that's a core part of what awe feels like.
Okay, so it's not just passively seeing something big. It's the active mental work of trying to make sense of it. It's cognitive as much as emotional.
Definitely. And, because it involves this challenge, this need to adjust, the source points out that awe isn't always like purely pleasant.
Makes sense. It can be unsettling sometimes.
It exists on a spectrum.
A spectrum. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me about that. What are the poles?
Well, on the, let's say, positive, constructive side, you get feelings like wonder, curiosity,
Uh-huh.
wanting to understand this new vast thing.
Uh-huh.
You might feel deep appreciation for beauty or skill or nature, a sense of reverence, maybe even spiritual feelings. And that feeling of transcendence, being connected to something way bigger than just you.
Yeah, those sound pretty amazing. Uplifting.
They really are. But then there's the other side. The research calls it the negative or overwhelming side.
Okay.
This is when the vastness feels maybe threatening or just completely incomprehensible. It can trigger feelings of powerlessness.
Like feeling tiny and insignificant, but not in a good way.
Exactly. Maybe disorientation, like you've lost your bearings. And for some people, it can even touch on existential dread.
Whoa. Fear or confusion about
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, stemming from realizing just how vast and maybe how indifferent the universe can feel sometimes.
That makes total sense. Feeling small can be comforting, like you're part of something grand. Or it can be terrifying, highlighting how fragile you are.
It's the same trigger, vastness challenging your understanding, but your mindset and the context really shape the experience. But interestingly, whether it feels good or a bit scary, the source highlights a really common outcome. this feeling of self-diminishment.
Your sense of self kind of shrinks.
Yeah, it takes a back seat. And often, that's paired with an increased sense of connectedness. Your focus shifts away from your own wants and worries.
Towards feeling part of something larger.
Exactly, like being part of a bigger system. It's a kind of self-transcendence.
A bit like a flow state, maybe, where you lose track of yourself.
Very similar in that way, yes. And this is huge when we think about emotional intelligence.
How so?
Well, when your ego, your intense self-focus, dials down even for a moment, it creates mental space.
Space for what?
Space for empathy, maybe. For seeing things from another perspective. For understanding your place in the bigger picture, your community, humanity, nature, whatever it is.
Ah, I see. So being humbled by something vast can actually make you better at relating to others because you're less stuck inside your own head.
It seems that way. Reducing that self-focus makes you more receptive, more open to the world and the people around you. It enhances that capacity for perspective taking, which is key for emotional intelligence.
That's fascinating. So why do we have this capacity? Did it help us evolve? Does the source get into that?
It touches on it, yeah, briefly. It mentions a few potential evolutionary advantages.
Like what?
One idea is social cohesion. Maybe feeling awe towards leaders or gods or shared symbols helped bind groups together.
Makes sense. Shared reverence.
Another is safety and survival. Experiencing awe in, say, a vast landscape might have helped early humans get the lay of the land, spot dangers, find safe spots.
Like getting up high and seeing the whole picture. Strategic advantage.
Could be. Then there's cognitive adaptation, which links right back to that need for accommodation we talked about.
Right. The mental stretching.
The idea is that awe basically trained our brains to update our mental models when we encountered something new or complex. That adaptability would be crucial for survival, right? Learning new things, adjusting to new environments.
So getting better at handling that, whoa, the world's bigger, weirder than I thought moment actually helped us thrive.
Plausibly, yeah. But the source we looked at puts a particular emphasis on how awe might promote prosocial behavior.
Prosocial, like being helpful, kind.
Exactly. The idea is that by making people feel more connected and less self-focused, awe encourages cooperation, generosity, helping others in the group.
And that would obviously be a huge advantage for group survival and success.
Definitely. So this link between awe and being more helpful and connected, it's a really strong thread. It suggests awe might be fundamental to our ability to be cooperative, empathetic beings.
Which ties directly back to social, emotional intelligence, building positive relationships, working together effectively.
Precisely. It could be woven into the very fabric of how we developed complex social lives.
Okay, this is great. So we know what it is, roughly why we might have it. Let's talk benefits. What actually happens to us when we experience awe? What are the tangible impacts on our bodies, our minds, and those emotional intelligence skills?
Right. The source lays out 5 key processes that explain how awe boosts well-being. The first one is pretty amazing. Shifts in neurophysiology and health markers.
Neurophysiology.
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on inside us? Physically.
Well, awe seems to dial down the fight or flight system, the sympathetic nervous system. Instead, it ramps up the vagal tone.
The vagus nerve.
Yeah.
That's linked to calming down, right?
Exactly. It promotes the rest and digest state, relaxation, even social engagement. The research also connects awe with increased release of oxytocin.
The bonding hormone. So it literally helps us feel calmer and more connected.
That's the idea. It engages our body's systems for calm and connection. And maybe the most surprising finding is the link to lower inflammation.
Wait, lower inflammation, like the physical process.
Yes. Specifically, studies found people who report feeling awe more often tend to have lower levels of a biomarker called interleukin-6.
IL-6.
That's
the kind, right? Involved in the body's inflammatory response.
That's the one. Lower levels are generally a good sign since chronic inflammation is linked to so many health problems, both physical and mental.
Wow. So an emotion, awe, can actually cool down inflammation in the body. That has huge implications for well-being and even emotional regulation, managing stress responses.
It really does. It shows this isn't just in your head, it's physiological.
Incredible. Okay, what's the second process?
It builds on what we discussed earlier. Diminished focus on the self. Awe pulls that spotlight off your own worries and desires.
Right, making you feel smaller but part of something bigger, fostering humility.
And paradoxically, that can lead to better self-awareness. Not erasing the self, but seeing it in context, understanding your place.
Ah,
perspective.
exactly. And this shift is linked to things like less self-criticism, lower anxiety, less depression,
Yeah.
probably because your personal issues feel less overwhelming against that vast backdrop.
Okay, so calmer body, less inflammation, broader perspective on yourself. That's already huge. What else?
Third is increased prosocial relationality. This is a big one for emotional intelligence.
Prosocial. So being nicer, more helpful.
Basically, yes. The research strongly suggests awe makes people kinder, more cooperative, more generous, more altruistic. By turning the focus outwards, it naturally makes you more inclined to connect with and help others.
That sense of interconnectedness drives empathy and cooperation, key social skills.
Absolutely. Which flows right into the fourth point, greater social integration.
Makes sense. If you feel connected to something larger, you feel more like you belong. Precisely. Whether it's connection to nature, humanity, a community, an ideal, it strengthens social bonds and combats loneliness. Again, vital for social emotional intelligence building and maintaining those connections.
So awe connects you outwards, not just to the vastness, but to the other people sharing it with you.
It reinforces that sense of being part of a we,
Okay, and the fifth key process.
a heightened sense of meaning. Because awe often challenges our understanding and expands our perspective, it prompts reflection on the bigger questions.
Like, what's it all about?
Sort of, yeah. It can fuel both spiritual feelings, a connection to something sacred, and scientific curiosity wanting to understand the universe. Both pathways lead to a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in life.
And purpose is a huge driver of well-being and resilience.
Definitely. It links to self-awareness, knowing what matters to you, and intrinsic motivation gives you that internal compass.
So let's sum up the outcomes. Calmer body, less self-focused mind, more kindness, stronger connections, more meaning. What's the overall picture for people who experience awe regularly?
The source describes them as generally calmer, kinder, more creative, less egocentric. Specific benefits mentioned are things like less stress, better mood, more life satisfaction, increased patience, and being more present in the moment.
That whole package sounds like a recipe for enhanced emotional intelligence across the board. Self-regulation, self-awareness, empathy, social skills, motivation.
It really supports and builds those capacities.
Okay, I'm sold. Awe is good stuff. So
Yeah.
how do we get more of it? Do I need to book a trip to see the Northern Lights?
Haha. Well, that would probably work, but no, thankfully it's much more accessible than that.
Dude.
The research points to lots of practical ways. Actively seeking out experiences in nature is a big one.
Even just a park? Or watching clouds?
Absolutely. Paying attention to details, a flower, an insect. Also engaging in spiritual or contemplative practices, whatever that means for you.
Okay.
Listening to powerful music that really moves you. That's a very common one.
Definitely felt that before.
Participating in collective gatherings, concerts, protests, ceremonies where you feel that shared energy and purpose.
Community connection. Makes sense.
Right. The source also mentions, impartially reporting the research, that exploring certain psychedelic substances under controlled conditions is another documented pathway for some people.
Okay, noted under controlled conditions as one reported method among others.
Exactly. But the thing that gets emphasized as really accessible is cultivating simple, mindful observation of everyday wonders.
Everyday wonders. What's vast about, like, my coffee cup?
Haha. Maybe not the cup itself, but it's about how you look. Shifting your attention, maybe noticing the way sunlight hits dust motes in the air, or contemplating the sheer complexity of a spider's web or the engineering of a bird's flight. Thinking about the immense journey that water took to reach your tap. Just pausing and looking with curiosity.
So finding the vastness in the small or the complex or the easily overlooked.
You got it. These small moments, approached with presence, can absolutely trigger that sense of vastness and require that little cognitive adjustment. Awe isn't just on mountaintops, it's potentially right here, if we slow down enough to notice.
That's really empowering. You don't need a special ticket. You just need to shift your attention.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, awe. It's triggered by vastness, requires us to mentally accommodate it, and it's way more than just a nice feeling.
Yeah, it seems to be a fundamental human emotion, maybe with deep evolutionary roots. And it has these really solid benefits for our physical health, our mental state.
And significantly, as we've seen, for our emotional intelligence. Diminishing the ego opens up empathy. Connection boosts social skills, meaning fuels resilience.
It really is a powerful pathway to becoming more self-aware, more connected, more regulated, more purposeful.
Understanding the science behind it gives you insight, but also practical tools. Simple ways to cultivate well-being and connection just by changing how you look at the world.
It's a lens, really, a way to see things differently.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. How might actively looking for those small, everyday moments of awe, just paying a bit more attention, actually shift your perspective?
Yeah, what subtle changes might you notice in how you see yourself or others, or even just the challenges of your day if you invite a little more awe in? Something to ponder.